Hello, I'm Robyn Smyers. I'm a partner at Thompson Hine and president of the board of directors at the City Club of Cleveland. On behalf of my fellow directors, I am pleased to welcome you to our 2020 annual meeting. In an ordinary year, we'd be together at the forum, but this is no ordinary year. So here we are convening virtually, as we have for so many months of this pandemic. We are grateful that you're here. We all know what this year has meant to our community and our nation, and what challenges it has brought to institutions like the City Club. But what you'll hear from our team today is a story of strength and resilience. To be sure, we are facing challenges, and those challenges are unprecedented. But the support and engagement that you and others in the community have shown, and the innovation and creativity of the City Club team, all of that has added up to a City Club that continues to deliver on its mission, to convene conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. The forum coming up today is another great example of that. Suzanne Nossel, the CEO of PEN America, will speak with us about the state of freedom of speech in our nation. PEN America is a 98-year-old organization championing freedom of expression and the written word. And Suzanne Nossel has just written a vitally important book, Dare to Speak, Defending Free Speech for All. In these troubled and complicated times of cancel culture and partisan strife, Suzanne's book is a call to action and a roadmap to help us learn to listen to one another again. Suzanne is also a dear friend and former college classmate with whom I've shared adventures a long time ago in South Africa and Namibia. It is such a special pleasure to have her at the City Club virtual podium today. Our conversation with Suzanne Nossel starts at 12:30, but right now I invite you to hear from the City Club team. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the 108th annual meeting of the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Dan Moulthrop, Chief Executive here. It is so great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sticking with us through this pandemic. Thank you for being a part of everything we've been doing this past year. Your resilience this past year has meant resilience for the City Club. We have been here from before the pandemic, through this pandemic. We are continuing through the pandemic. We will be here on the other side, all because of you and because of these great people who are here with me today. So thank you for being a part of this. We're going to take a little moment today to talk about the year that was, our 108th year, and to talk about how we're making it through the pandemic and to talk about what's coming up. So first up is Stephanie Jansky, our fearless director of programming, without whom none of this would have been possible.
Oh, thank you, Dan, for your kind words. We're going to start pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, the City Club was on pace to have one of its most successful programming years in recent history. By early March, we had convened 80 forums and were on track to execute between 120 and 130 forums by the end of the fiscal year. Our average attendance was up to 150 people, and between December 2019 and March 2020, 45% of our forums were sellouts. We presented many prominent new voices like playwright Dominique Morisseau, Major League Baseball's Billy Beane, and Jerron Smith, who shared his impressive journey from Cleveland to the White House. We were also joined by writers, scholars, thought leaders, and mayors from around the country through our popular Urban Leadership Series. Our annual State of the Schools address attracted 900 people, educators, community members, and students from across the region. It was one of our largest events ever. And Senator Sherrod Brown made the City Club one of the first stops on his book tour, and he agreed to be interviewed by his wife, Connie Schultz. As you can tell, it was a great year, and everyone at the City Club was very excited to see how long we could keep these streaks going. And then the pandemic reached Ohio. We had to change course, and much of what you'll hear today is how we did just that. We ended the fiscal year with 109 forums, 80 in person and 29 virtual. While that number may seem smaller than what you heard in years past, what we accomplished was actually much larger. And here to start sharing some of those accomplishments is Bliss Davis, our content and programming coordinator, who will share the successes of our youth programming.
Thank you, Stephanie. So this past year, we had more than 1,000 students attend 42 of our student programming. Our forum council started with a sellout crowd in October, and our attendance stayed strong with more than 150 people attending our forums through the rest of the forums of the year. In the spring, our 2020 annual high school debate championship on March 13th was our last in-person forum due to crowd restrictions, and we had to limit our audience to family, coaches, and judges only. And finally, the last youth forum of the year on sustainability ended up being one of our first virtual forums in April. The students planned and hosted it virtually without a hitch.
Thank you, Bliss. The youths are an important part of our programming, and they were very resilient and adaptable as we made some of these changes. So as I said, in early March, we had to pivot to virtual forums, and it was almost immediate. When the first COVID-19 cases were confirmed in Ohio, we radically changed our forums for that week. A previously scheduled forum with the president of the American Medical Association was canceled, and in its place, an audienceless forum on the pandemic was designed and created in 24 hours. 4 local health experts addressed an empty room, but more than 1,000 people watched the live stream and submitted 100 audience questions. It remains the top watch forum of 2020 so far. After that, 16 previously scheduled in-person forums were canceled while we grappled with the topics and speakers to feature as our world dramatically changed. And from March until June, we held 29 forums that reached 9,000 people, an average of 300 people per forum. And we did it without skipping one Friday. The forums focus on a smaller range of topics than normal: the pandemic and its effects on both physical and mental health, the ensuing economic crisis, the election, and the racial justice movement sweeping the country. Rather than planning forums months in advance, we had to plan week to week, and everyone on staff chipped in as all of our jobs dramatically changed. But likely none more so than Maria Gerstenberger, our manager of content and experience, who had to create a virtual City Club stage in just a matter of days. I'd like to introduce Maria, who will tell that story.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's hard to even remember the events we did before March. Our biggest challenges back then were the large offsites you mentioned. When in-person events stopped, we faced the challenge of how to produce virtual forums. We learned lessons right away, like when we got Zoom bombed during the second virtual forum. The bright side of that was we were able to turn our experience into something the community could learn from, and the blog became a teaching tool and was our most read blog that year. We've been learning ever since, testing new streaming platforms and developing our own best practices for virtual forums. We were able to use our newfound expertise to help local organizations like the Cleveland Foundation host their own virtual events. As our digital workload grew, we needed more people to train to help with production. So Stephanie and Chef Adam stepped up to learn those new skills.
Yeah, we had to step up to learn StreamYard to help with the forum production, as well as partner with LMM to help them create food for the homeless. We started in April, and as of June, we made 7,100 pounds of food for about 10,000 meals per week. Hey, Neil, what kind of food did we create?
The different varieties of foods consist of chicken, pork, venison, and ground beef, a whole lot of ground beef. Also on my downtime, I contribute to help the City Club team outreach to make calls to the 1,000 members that we have.
Adam and Neil, thank you so much. It's really impressive what you've been able to do through that partnership with Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, and we're proud to work alongside you. Latasha, you've worked very hard to help prepare us for an eventual return to welcoming guests back into the City Club. And I wonder if you could talk about that a little.
How you doing? My name is Latasha Crenshaw. I am the catering sales banquet manager. During this difficult time, I had to brainstorm ideas to come up with a safe return. We came up with a survey, sent it out to all of our members. We got great feedback. It helped us welcome back some of our private events.
Thank you, Latasha. Julie, I want to ask you to talk a little bit about the operations and the financial side of things.
Thanks, Dan. Before COVID-19, in early March, we had approved a new flex and work at home policy. We'd also been working closely with our IT firm, Excelis, and we were almost 100% cloud-based. We also beefed up our firewall as well as installed multi-factor authentication. So when the pandemic hit, we had quite a smooth transition to a work from home environment. Next, we secured a PPP loan, which allowed us to retain all of our full-time employees and increase our cash reserves. We retrained and prepared for our new virtual world. I'm happy to report that at the end of fiscal year 2020, the City Club broke even financially. As you could expect, with no in-person forums, we lost over $200,000 in ticket sales and $160,000 in corporate sponsorship and support. Two things that were critical to our financial stability. One, we immediately took measures to cut expenses, and the second is that we were very fortunate that many of our donors, individual, corporate, and foundation, removed their gift restrictions, and that provided essential operating support during this period. Moving forward, we continue to look for new revenue streams, evaluate our financial operations, and set up operating protocols for returning to in-person forums. Finally, I want to acknowledge the growing support to our endowment. The City Club received two significant unrestricted gifts from the Barbara Piknovic Trust and the Carolyn Waldman Trust this year, and they totaled over $617,000. This now leads us to advancement. So Director of Advancement, Noelle, can you take over?
Thanks, Julie. Well, you reported a lot of what I work on and the support that we had from corporate and foundation folks. In March, we were on track to have a very strong year, as you've heard, both programmatically and with financial support. And when we had to shift online, we ended up calling all 92 of our corporate and foundation partners to have a conversation. How are things going for you? How are things changing? And what can we expect? Part of that conversation was asking for these reallocations. And I'm happy to report that with their support, we were able to focus on the programming at hand and the challenge that we had. We also saw individual support step up, including our board that did a special match to help us in the end of the year, and folks who were returning their ticket and table sales to help support us in that end of year. So together, it was an incredible show of strength that we can't thank you all for enough. In fact, so much of what we end up accomplishing here at the City Club is because of our incredible membership support. And here's Alyssa, Membership and Advancement Manager, to tell us more about that.
Thank you, Noelle. I'm really excited to share a little bit about the extraordinary growth that we saw in both membership and individual giving in the last year. We saw an extraordinary 5-year peak in membership, reaching 1,006 individual members. And all of those members we were in touch with right as the pandemic hit in March. We made calls to all of those members, and everyone on the team really stepped up to support us in that work. I also want to take a moment to note that our annual fund campaign was extraordinarily successful too because of the support of our members and friends in the community. We actually doubled our goal for that campaign, which came, you believe it, in March. What an exciting month for us. But you all really showed your support for us. And it really encouraged our team to realize that the programming we're doing is really important and that you notice it and that you think that the work we're doing is really important. I do want to give a shout out to all of our members who engaged with us on a deeper level last year by volunteering with us. Stephanie mentioned a few of our major offsite events, including the forum with Sherrod Brown and Connie Schultz, as well as our State of the Schools. And we saw a number of City Club members volunteer to help people find their seats or have just a really great experience at those forums. And we're grateful to those of you who stepped up and volunteered with our small but mighty team at those forums. And finally, I just want to talk about one of my favorite member engagement pieces, which is our member roundtables. We were able to have 2 in-person roundtables during the last year. And then we had 3 virtual roundtables, which really meant a lot to our team to see you, our members, even virtually on a Zoom screen, just to be able to interact with you because it has been really difficult not to see you every week in person. And someone who we were expecting to see in person, but ended up being with us virtually was our intern, Abby Henry. And I'm going to turn it over to Abby to share a little bit about her experience as the City Club's first virtual intern. Abby?
Thanks, Alyssa. Many of our members might not recognize me because I've been serving as the City Club's first virtual intern. From my home across the state in Toledo, I've been assisting Stephanie with programming tasks, helping Alyssa with member outreach and communications, and experiencing firsthand what it's like to work in the nonprofit sector. In August, my virtual office switched from my front porch in Toledo to a campus apartment at Denison University, where I'm currently a senior studying political science. My roommates listen in on virtual forums, City Club speakers have informed my senior thesis, and I've even connected with a former City Club speaker at our local farmers market. While being part of this team has taught me so many skills that I'll take with me wherever I end up, the most informative part of my experience with the City Club has been what I've learned through observation: how to be perseverant and creative in times of hardship, how to prioritize your community, and how to truly partake in democracy. And I've learned all of this without ever stepping foot in the City Club building.
Abby, thank you so much. We're so grateful to you for being a part of our team, even as you've continued your studies at Denison. And we're just really grateful that we've gotten to work with you as well. Finally, Tiffany France is the face that greeted members at every forum, every in-person forum, I should say, and has continued to greet all of us on our weekly meetings. And Tiffany, I want to ask you to say just a few words.
Thank you, Dan. If there's anything that this year has taught us, is that we need each other. We need community. Our relationships are what makes us strong, and we have had decades of breaking bread and engaging new ideas together. I think back to when we were in the office and I sat in front of our mural created by April Bleakney that reads a portion of our creed. I'm a product of the people, a cross-section of the community, weak as I am weak and strong in their strength. And now more than ever, I'm reminded of that message. Last year, our work resonated with growing audiences because of the 130 community partners, 145 sponsors, and more than 1,000 members who partner with us. Our speakers, your questions keep our forums relevant, and generous donors help make sure we didn't miss a single week when we moved to virtual programming. To be resilient, we need to begin with a solid foundation. At the City Club, that foundation is you. And while we are missing seeing you every week, we are grateful that you've made sure that we know you're there. So thank you for staying connected on social media. Thank you for all your retweets, shares, and comments. Lastly, nothing will be made possible without the City Club team and board of directors. Through life changes, a pandemic, social injustice, you came to work, you showed up, and made these virtual programs happen. Thank you. You are the cross-section of this community. We are weak as you are weak and strong in your strength. On behalf of the City Club, our deepest gratitude to you all.
Tiffany, thank you so much. That was very well said. I don't think I could say anything more. Finally, I want to thank all of you, my teammates, my colleagues. You are amazing people. And on behalf of the community, I thank you for all the work that you've been doing. And on behalf of the board of directors, I thank you as well. And finally, on behalf of the staff, I thank our board of directors for everything that you have done to help to shepherd us through this pandemic, all of your support, all of your counsel. It's so helpful. Again, all of you who have tuned into our annual meeting, thank you. It's your resilience that is our resilience. As Tiffany said, you know, we are weak as you are weak, strong in your strength, and I will add resilient in your resilience. Thank you so much. We're about to start a forum. We'll see you there.